Hi, everyone, and welcome to just another episode of Conversations with Coaches. Today, I'm going to talk to Mila Bassett, neurodiversity coach. And Mila, I'd like you to introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Luba. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here and speaking with you. Um, my name is Mila Bassett. I'm a neurodiversity coach working with adults with ADHD and autism, helping them navigate the balance between life and work, boost performance, focus at work, and have energy for life after work.
Okay, yeah, that sounds quite valuable. How did you arrive at this niche?
Um, the niche arrived at me, the niche found me. It was a very unexpected and organic process for me. I came to coaching, ADHD coaching, about 2 years ago from corporate. I had a career in corporate in project management, software, engineering. Um, I had 4 children at the time, so it was a busy lifestyle, balancing work and family. So I was relying on a lot of systems, structure, being a project manager, that's in my nature. And things were running smoothly at home until they were not. And some of my children were just not using those systems in the way that I was hoping for. So I started questioning my approach or what was I doing wrong as a parent. And then in my research, realized that it wasn't me doing something wrong. It was that we had ADHD in the family. So that led me to dive deeper into the whole world of ADHD and management and what I can do as a parent to help my children cope or, just do better at home and at school. And once I discovered that there's coaching specifically targeted for these people, I experimented on my children first. They were my first clients. And I saw the difference that I just couldn't achieve otherwise. Trying different things and giving advice and guiding them directly didn't work as as well as coaching.
How exactly does ADHD coaching work? How is it different from a typical coaching process
Yeah, it's a
with
really good question.
non-ADHD clients?
Right. Um, well, I would say that my understanding of ADHD coaching after training or once I enrolled in formal training has changed. So basically, what it comes down to is that it's not very different. It is based in ICF standard competencies with additional competencies layered on top. I would describe it that way. So as a coach, you still do partnering with clients. You still do exploration, setting agreements. The client sets the agenda. The client is an expert in themselves. So all of that is true in ADHD coaching. It applies as a foundation. So you really have to be strong in the fundamentals. And then on top of that is a set of additional competencies that are targeted towards educating the person you're working with on ADHD in a way that doesn't come as advice giving. So that's a subtlety around ADHD coaching that I want to emphasize that it's not me coming across as an expert in ADHD, but somebody who has the knowledge, who has a training, and offers this knowledge to the client if they are open to that. Because, a person with ADHD is not defined by the ADHD. It's a whole person with values, needs, belief system. So we explore all of that as well as ADHD traits. And of course, we rely on the client's self-knowledge during this exploration, partnering in that process.
And if we look at some examples of interventions or knowledge sharing, could you provide an example, please, so that for me and for those who watch the interview, it becomes more tangible?
Yeah, I think the process of the knowledge sharing is really woven in organically in the session based on where the session is headed, based on what the client's needs. At the point of setting the agreement, kind of the direction of the session is established. And then, depending on that context, there may be a point of maybe addressing a specific challenge with, say, starting a task. and a client brings in a situation where they know what they need to do, they know how to do it, but they cannot get started. So that would be the point where I, as a coach, would offer a piece of knowledge around ADHD and self-activation, the neurobiology piece, so that first of all, it normalizes this experience. It reframes it as it's not something is wrong with the client. They are just, being lazy or irresponsible. So we reframe that with the specific piece of knowledge about neurobiology, that's how the brain operates typically. I'm not pushing this knowledge onto the client. I'm not claiming this is the case, but I'm offering this information for them to make connections and to make a judgment in terms of how well it resonates with them, or does it resonate? Is it them? So then it is applied to their personal context, to their personality and their brain wiring. And I'm sometimes I can be wrong. I don't know exactly if this is the piece of information that is useful, but I will offer it for the client to use then in their further exploration.
Do you need to have additional training? Do you need to have medical training? Because you said you come from project management, so you're not a medical professional. How big is the gap you need to bridge, say, from being a corporate professional to becoming an ADHD coach? How much is there to learn?
Yeah, this is a very important question lately, especially because there is a lot of information around what it takes to become an expert in ADHD coaching or in ADHD consultant. And many times there is this TikTok approach to it, the sense of that you just have to have a really good body of knowledge to be qualified, TikTok style. It does take time. So I will say that it takes at least a year, maybe a year to 2 years of a formal training with ICF accredited coach training program that specializes in neurodiversity training. There are different types of programs, so I would encourage coaches who are interested in pursuing this path doing their research. There is an organization called ADHD Coaches Organization that has a directory of programs that are ICF accredited. So I highly recommend maybe going there, starting that, using that as a starting place. But I would say this is the core or minimum requirement to becoming a qualified ADHD coach, without the need, really without the requirement of having any medical or psychology degree, because the program, if it's accredited, includes a module that is educational for a coach. So there are instructors and trainers who are providing that education. So I felt like that is sufficient for me coming from a non-coaching, non-psychology background whatsoever. And again, the foundations of this work is coaching. It's not psychology. It's not mental health. It's not advising. And I would go further and say that part of the ADHD coaching ethics is recognizing the signs where the client needs more than I can offer as a neurodiversity coach, and having a conversation with them about referring them or recommending maybe exploring other providers like therapists, counselors, things of that nature, psychiatrists, prescribers. So knowing the limits of where your expertise lies and then helping the client get additional support elsewhere professionally.
Yeah, it's very important. I've known about ADHD coaching for a long time. When I was getting my coaching education almost 10 years ago, we had a few directions. So I chose the executive paths and trained as an executive coach, but some of my classmates took a different class and trained as ADHD coach. And at that time, I thought that was not as popular as it is now. So do you think the general public awareness about neurodiversity ADHD is increasing and improving, or do we still have a lot to learn about this?
I would say that there is a movement towards better awareness and better acceptance. Things are starting to shift, but I
Yeah.
am still very concerned about the amount of stigma and misinformation remaining. Um, there is a huge market opportunity for anybody who wants to, bring in solutions and apps and treatment options. And a lot of times that is driven by the, financial reasons. Um, and there's a lot of misinformation around that bubble that is concerning. And it is making for people who are looking for help for ADHD support, coaching, it's getting harder to discern which supports are reasonable, science-based, evidence-based, and which are not. So that's the part that can be really confusing, in spite of a better awareness these days. So I would really highlight the need to spend time to do your research and talk to people you trust, and maybe connect to the community that can talk about their experience and make referrals.
I think something that I am aware of, or I notice, I'm not sure if I'm 100% correct or if I'm completely, misled here. I think because of the stigma that existed for a long time, a lot of adults got diagnosed with ADHD quite late. So maybe in their 30s, 40s, 50s, they discovered that they had ADHD. And before that, they did not know about it. They didn't regulate it. They just learned some coping strategies, right? So, and for example, if I'm getting a client who has signs ADHD, I'm not trained to recognize those signs, then my coaching might not be as effective. And then we might not even know why, right? Could that be the case? Do you think all coaches should do some basic ADHD awareness or neurodivergence awareness training so that we are prepared to face some people who might be having ADHD or neurodivergency without even being aware of it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you for bringing that up. Um, I would agree 100% that there needs to be a broader kind of general literacy around traits. Again, not to diagnose and not to say that now I can help you, work with that part of your brain, but to tailor and to target your existing approach. And I think that applies to any sort of work you're doing with people, or even just communicating in daily life. Knowledge at a high level of what ADHD is, what the science might be, is very helpful. But especially so for coaches, like you're saying. Otherwise, the work you're doing with the client might not be as effective. And it's true that a lot of clients are either late diagnosed or they are not aware that they have the traits of neurodivergence, and they are struggling to understand why life is hard or why that particular challenge is so difficult for them. So, as a coach, once you are trained, or I guess it applies to any profession, if you are trained in ADHD, you will start picking up the traits, but that doesn't mean that you are in the position to assert anything about the person in front of you. But again, this gives you an opportunity to offer your observations and mention something like, I know that I'm noticing you describing your experience like this, and I know that that's common for many people with ADHD I work with. Does that resonate, or would you like to hear more? Is this something you would like to explore? Because I might share some insight here that might be helpful. So approaching it that way, again, fits in with the ethics, competencies, and provides value in your coaching.
So I we are connected on LinkedIn, and I know that you position yourself as an ADHD coach. Does that mean that you work with people who already know about their ADHD? And who are your clients in general?
Yeah, most people that come to me already have ADHD diagnosis or the suspect. They
Mhm.
think they might be, and both situations are okay. Um, we can work with somebody who is, not diagnosed officially. It doesn't really make a big difference in the work we do, but it's about this challenges that somebody experiences at work. I work with adults and primarily people who work in a professional setting because that's the area I understand well because I work there. I know the pain points, I know the challenges people face daily. Um, uh, a lot of my clients balance, children, extracurricular activities, a lot of things kind of on the family front and a career. So that's where kind of the area that I feel I have a lot of experience and I understand again what the challenges present. Um, I would say the types of challenges are around performance, around balancing it all, succeeding at work and at home, not dropping balls, meeting the deadlines, um, just dealing with the overwhelm of the amount of work that needs to be done. Um, and in this market where the job situations are sometimes on the line, performance reviews can be unpredictable. There's just a lot of overwhelm around job security that my clients find that having somebody in their corner helping them navigate that, you know, turbulent times, I would say it's really turbulent out there right now. There's a lot of overwhelm, is very helpful for many people.
So, what do you clients see as results of ADHD coaching?
In terms of the results, that depends on the client's agenda, what they are looking to get out of it. But what we typically aim for is really building enough self-knowledge and that arsenal of tools that they can take outside of coaching and create their own management tools in the day-to-day. And that might involve specific tools that we discover work for them in, say, retaining information, not forgetting tasks, not forgetting deadlines, or it could be more on the level of self-awareness and self-acceptance and figuring out that they are more capable or resourceful than they had realized. And that can be enough of a result and the success for the client I'm working with. So I say that it's hard to really describe what the result is without knowing what the client brings to this coaching space. But overall, to me, the way I describe the goal for us is for them not to needing a coach in about 3 months' time, which again, that number is very arbitrary. But the ultimate goal is to have a person feel internally that they can cope and manage on their own, that they have that expertise in themselves now.
Okay, wow, 3 months. It sounds like a very um, efficient way, a very efficient timeline to create some changes like this. What is the
Yeah,
typical length of an engagement you think that can support most clients?
um, I normally see 3 months being a good kind of starting point, a good
Mm-hmm.
baseline. And then that's at that mark, things start shifting and things start feeling easier for the client. But anywhere from 3 to 6 months is normal and typical. And some clients continue working with a coach for years, maybe just for quick check-ins, maybe once a month, just to have somebody again
Okay.
in your corner, knowing that you have a support if you need that. But 3 to 6 months is, I would say, is typical.
Lovely. So when you say that you're neurodivergence coach, is ADHD the only condition that you coach around, or are there more?
Um, ADHD is primary neurodivergence I work with, but autism is right next to it because they're usually or quite often coexisting. There are a lot of people, especially lately, diagnosed with ADHD, autism and ADHD dual
Okay.
diagnosis. Um, and actually, through this process of training and discovery, I was myself diagnosed with autism about a year and a half ago. So that's to your question about late diagnosed neurodivergent people and kind of process of self-discovery and the importance of that. Um, I I'm not trained in other types of neurodivergence like dyslexia, dyscalculia, um, and I would be upfront about that, that I mostly work with ADHD and autistic people. But I am trained enough to recognize the traits that might potentially indicate other types of neurodivergence, and I would refer that type of client to a specialist. So I think their need in specialists for a variety of neurodivergencies is really high right now, but the supply of coaches is not quite there. So my hope is that with time, this profession will be kind of will have a broader reach and broader training.
Yeah, I see. So you mentioned traits a few times. And what are some of the traits that other coaches should pay more attention to? Of course, we can't diagnose, but at least we could be more observant.
Yeah. Some common traits that might appear during sessions when we work with clients is um, verbal processing comes to mind is number one, when there's a lot of just downloading and in a manner that is, moving from subject to subject, and there's just a lot of it. I know sometimes it's going to be normal in coaching, but if it's a pattern, if it happens session to session to session, then that might be a sign. When a client brings up a challenge with just not doing the thing they really need to get done because it's something that is tedious and boring and mundane, like paying bills or writing a report, and that is a real struggle for them. Again, seeing the pattern behind this um, is a common trait. Not finishing things, leaving things undone, or leaving things all over the place, having the space that is cluttered and kind of preventing them from moving on with their life when they lose things and misplace things, and kind of the general level of disorganization to a higher degree. That could be a sign as well. And then on the emotional side, not just in terms of productivity or performance, um, impulsivity, making decisions without thinking them through, emotional reactivity. Again, if that is presented as a pattern and ongoing types of behavior, then that would be a trait I would want to maybe explore further.
Well, I can think of a lot of people who might share these traits.
Yes,
How to discern between, like when to be more cautious with that and maybe refer a client, um, to explore whether or not they have ADHD, and what is normal.
I would say that as a coach, if the work is moving in the direction that is satisfactory to both the client and the coach, I would say that there's probably no need to refer. But if there is no progress made and it feels like the coach and the client are not making any progress or insight, or things are just stuck, then and you feel that when you start going in circles, then I would say that's the moment where maybe additional resources are needed. And a coach can offer this to the client and make an observation that that's my sense of what's going on. How do you feel about this? Do you agree that additional resources might be helpful? And leave it to the client to dive deeper, and maybe that'll generate interest in exploring their neurodiversity further. And if not, then maybe just looking for additional resources as a coach to educate yourself, to equip yourself better, and keep working through these challenges, because there are still, you don't have to have a formal training. You can still be useful and helpful to the client by doing your own self-development and education.
Right. Is there anything specific about working with neurodivergent clients in terms of how engagement is structured, maybe session length or session frequency or support in between the sessions? Is there anything that is especially relevant to this category of clients?
I do believe that it's important to set all this kind of the logistics of the sessions up front with the client, have really strong agreement around communicating during the session. The length can be anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes. My personal sweet spot is 50 minutes. I feel that's enough. But it's important to have agreements in terms of how we going to handle that verbal processing. That comes up a lot in conversations, that the whole session can be used up by a client describing their experience. And so no work takes place. So having an agreement around how do we redirect the conversation without me interrupting you is important. So that one logistical component that needs to be firmly in place up front. Some coaches prefer to write notes themselves and then share with the client, or it can be vice versa.
Mhm.
Again, this is a part of co-creating the relationship and co-creating the work, the way we're going to work together. Um, and support between sessions, I find is absolutely essential. And I know that clients really appreciate the opportunity to get in touch by email. Sometimes it's text messages, whatever works for the
Mhm.
coach and the client. But it is essential to have an opportunity to share and get some guidance and support in between sessions.
Right. What is your own support system like?
The support that I offer to the clients.
No, as a coach, how do you stay resourced? I generally think that coaching is quite an energy consuming profession, because you relate to people, you use yourself as the main tool, right? So it's energy consuming even when you work with neurotypical clients, but maybe for clients who have special needs and need special attention, it may be even more energy consuming. So how do you keep yourself resourced?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what I find helps me keep going and recover when there is a maybe intense coaching work or emotional work, is to stay connected with my community of coaches that I, um,
Mhm.
maybe came across in my class or just during my coaching career so far. Not necessarily coaches who do the same kind of work as I do. They come from all different, niches and training systems. But having regular check-ins and jumping on a call or even texting each other and sharing ideas, just the sense of belonging to organization is probably not the right word, because coaching can be a lonely profession, but having that community of people who know where I'm coming from, that I can help uh, in some way,
Mm.
professionally or personally, that is really important to me. Um, and then doing what I recommend to my clients, to take time to really take, go outside, recharge, walk, be in nature, do the things that are self-regulating. Sometimes it's the small things, but they are essential.
Yeah, that's true. So, what would be your advice to coaches who are thinking of working with ADHD client or a coach around neurodivergency topics? So, you mentioned ICF accredited training that is specifically focused on working with this audience. Is there anything else that's important, you think?
Um, I would think that it's important to have the mindset of it being a long journey, and that you don't have to be the expert not to put that pressure on yourself to be the ADHD expert who is supposed to help the client, because that's the emotional weight that can easily creep up. But take it slowly, do your best to educate yourself, and then always remember that it's all about the client, that the client is an expert in themselves. And our job is to create that space for them and guide them through that exploration and finding that expertise in themselves. That's our primary job. And not to think that you need to be neurodivergent yourself or to have any additional like mental health education. These are not the signs of a good coach who works with ADHD clients.
Could you elaborate on this? This sounds curious.
Yeah. It does come up this question about can I qualify as a ADHD coach if I myself don't have lived experience? And the answer is that you can absolutely be an excellent coach if you are neurotypical. It's all about, training, understanding what to look for, practicing the competences, knowing what the effective coaching in general entails, and then bringing in that element of education, educating the client, or there's a number of specific competences that you master in your formal training that makes you equipped and qualified to work with neurodivergent people, even if you are not neurodivergent yourself. So you will have tools at your disposal once you're trained and experienced, and that's the key here. It's not how your own brain works.
It does sound reassuring. Thank you so much for sharing. I did want to ask this question actually. So we are getting to the end of our call, and I'm really grateful for you joining me. It's been a very insightful conversation. Is there anything else that you think is important to share about the type of work that you do?
Yeah, Luba, I've enjoyed this conversation too, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. And I want to encourage coaches who are considering this niche to explore it, to see for themselves, do research, maybe connect with other coaches who work on this niche, listen to them about their experience and kind of get the feel of what this work entails. And just know that there are a lot of people out there who need support, who would benefit from support from somebody who is qualified and trained to provide it.
Yeah, thank you. And for everyone who's watching, if you want to connect with Mila, if you want to learn more about the work that she does, engage in her programs, get in touch, you'll find all the contact information in the episode description. So don't be shy and reach out. And I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much, Liba.